Hi! Today we are interviewing several developers from the SimBlocks.io team. SimBlocks is a software development company that builds 3D digital worlds for the modeling and simulation industry. Our team is here to answer questions about a geospatial terrain format called CDB. Let's begin.
CDB is a type of folder structure that organizes a set of geospatial data by geocell and data type.
CDB is standardized and open format like a database that users can use to help see visual representations of Earth. It allows for easier sharing of data like a repository where users can view and edit data with CDB compliant simulators in real time.
I see. So CDB is a structure that organizes, maintains, and allows shareable data. That's incredible.
The CDB can have a lot of data such as for imagery, elevation, vectors, and models, as well as some metadata information. And then all of these data sets are available in a few different formats that are detailed in the CDB documentation, kind of like TIFFs or shaped files.
Wow, that's a lot of different types of data that CDB handles.
It's important to have a common geospatial terrain storage system because it allows for interoperability between different systems.
Being able to have a standard folder structure for storing geospatial data can help significantly with things like compatibility between software, as well as reducing the need for developers to support a whole bunch of different types of databases and ways to organize geospatial data.
Ah, excellent. Sharing between the systems.
I had no idea what CDB was when I was in college, and then I got hired by SimBlocks out of college and ended up having to write some kind of software where I streamed info from a CDB over a network. Really had no idea what I was doing at the time, but I definitely learned fast, and I've learned a lot more about it since then.
I learned about CDB while at work, and I was working on tasks to translate some of the outputs from CDB into other exports.
I learned about CDB by reading the documentation. It's available on the OGC Standards website.
All three of you have had interesting experiences.
CDBs can represent more than just the visual world for sure. I've done a lot of work on adding metadata within the folder structure containing information on all the individual models and textures inside the CDB, such as who made them and when were they created, when were they last edited, stuff like that.
In addition to representing the visual world, you can also use CDB to represent change over time with seasons and damage states.
Great! Being able to change with the seasons, that's really cool.
So I've used CDB in quite a few different applications, with the main ones being Unity and QGIS. But depending on the output type, sometimes it could be like Creator if it was OpenFlight, or Google Maps if it was a KMZ.
I've used CDB with image generators used to display the geospatial data, and also with some applications used for processing the data.
I've used CDBs with several applications. This includes QGIS, and another one I used it with was a web-based geospatial editor. And I've also used it with our own Unity software and plugins as well from SimBlocks.
Fascinating. A big variety.
So initially there was a little bit of a learning curve. All the files have very specific naming conventions that are like kind of a mix of letters and numbers that give you information on like what the dataset is, what the LOD level is, etc. But it does take a bit to get used to what all of that means, especially since the reference documentation is kind of large. And then I also had the added hurdle of being new to the GIS field in general at the time. So it was also that plus learning just general terminology related to the field.
At one point I was working on doing some validation for different CDBs and making sure they were correct. and struggled with some of the rigid requirements for it, such as naming conventions for specific files. Some of the documentation wasn't as clear-cut as I feel like it should have been, but I do feel like it is good to have rigid requirements. It's an important part of any kind of standard. And overall, I do think the folder structure is pretty straightforward, being separated into a folder of GL cells with GL cell specific information, and another folder for general use models shared between different GL cells, such as default trees or electrical poles.
I struggled most with the tiling system and the LODs in CDBs.
The struggles sounded pretty challenging, but I'm glad to hear you were all successful.
I think that the standard is a great way to consolidate geospatial data that you have into a single folder structure that's easy to navigate, and once you understand what's going on, also pretty simple to work with as well.
I would like the viewers to know that I found it a lot easier to understand CDB if I had an example in front of me to look at.
Yes, I see. Having a visual makes it easier to learn. We hope you enjoyed our discussion about CDB, and if you have any additional questions for our team, please reach out to us.